I am your host, Shawanna Kennedy, and I am super excited to just be joined today. I have my guest waiting in the wings, and she is raring to go. Today is all things CEO and media. I'm excited because with CEO Chat, I get the opportunity to sit down with some amazing owners, entrepreneurs who are really trailing, doing some things in their lane. And in this case, I wanted to touch base with the media world, and I am super excited to have my guest. With CEO Chat, we get to dig a little deep, talk about some pros and cons of what it feels like, right? To get to the heart and how sometimes hard it is to be a CEO, to be an entrepreneur that has declared, I am a CEO. Hello.
Hey there, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Dr. Tachi, I know a lot to what you have had the privilege to do with all of the acting and choreographer work and things like that, and even some of the filmmaking. Even want to just go right there real quick. When you think about film, what was that, and how did you even get started? They let them know who Dr. Tachi is.
So, how did I get started in film or just in general?
Even in media, like what led you down the path of all the things that you could have been, but then you chose to go be into media, be into the arts, the world of arts, and you took it a step further. You wanted to go not only be in front of the camera, but you wanted to know all things behind the camera. What happened with that? How did that happen? What led you that route?
So, it started when I was 3. My nickname was TV Addict. There's there's a photo of my sister and myself. I was 5 and she was 3, and we were looking at we were they took up my mother took the pictures, like a black and white photo, because she was taking a photography class. And so we're like looking off to the side like this. I'm like, what are we looking? And then I discovered, I was like, we must have been watching the TV. We were always watching the TV. TV was on all the time. So at a very early age, like I said, from the time I was 3, I was enamored with television. Didn't think that that would be a route, or media would be a route to take in terms of a career, until I got to before I was getting ready to decide what I was going to do in college. So probably about sophomore year or whatever, I had been acting, I had been doing all of these things. And my father was like, once it was discovered I was not going to be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer like a Nigerian child is supposed to, he suggested mass communication. And I wasn't exactly sure what that was. And as I did more study, I thought, okay, that's media. That is radio, TV, film, and all of those types of things. So mass media, I became interested in it. And that's what I majored in college, that and independent film and video making. And I loved it. It gave me the opportunity to exercise. So one end was theory of media. The other
Mhm.
end was practical and actually getting to make things. So I've been doing that now forever, like my entire adult life. In fact, I wasn't even really an adult when I started doing things, because I was in
Mm.
college. So yeah.
Now, because you said you did that in school, but you touched a lot. Like you did the dance and film. How did you know, or because of the different classes, is that what led you down that path though? Because I know some people, they're not going into choreography. Now, being behind the camera or in front of the camera is a different thing. That's a whole
Yeah.
different animal. What happened? You just had happy feet?
I always here's a fun fact. My last name is Egwu. Egwu means dance in Igbo. So it was basically destined that I was going to be,
Wow.
some kind of dancer. So yeah, my last name actually means dance.
Wow.
So um, so
Wow.
I was taking classes. I had taken classes when I was little. I, did it for like from kindergarten all the way to 3rd grade or 4th grade. Then I didn't do really much of anything else. Then in high school, there was a program we used to call the Brotherhood Program that happened during Black History Month. And we did there were a bunch of people in my high school that all danced with like the same dance studio.
Uh-huh.
And that was like not me. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But they they said, okay, we'll choreograph the thing. So I hadn't really danced in years at this point, since fourth grade. So I said, well, why not? It might be fun to do it. I still had it. So I ended up being like in the front because I had it. So then I said, well, I'm liking this dance thing. And in college, I actually was going to minor in dance, but actually ended up not minoring in dance, but still taking classes. I was the president of the African dance troupe because I had picked up African dance at that point. Then when I left and came to DC, or went to DC, I was wanting to do more dance. And there was so much more available in DC. All this adult dance. I mean, modern hip hop, different techniques of modern tap.
How many different ones did you do? How did you try? Yeah. What did you try it all?
Yeah, everything. Now, what did I stick with? That's a different case. So I do still to this day a little bit of tap, but tap wasn't my main thing. Ballet wasn't my main thing. Techniques of modern, including Dunham, which I did for 7 years. And Cunningham, which I did for a long time as well. And then African, all different types of African dance. Sabar, which is Senegalese and Ivorian. So those were my bases. But then I started to do jazz. I did Broadway jazz for a while. So I added a lot of things. And then I actually
of those days, of those times, you have some reels. Like I don't know that we've ever got a sneak peek at some of the reels
because I don't have it. See, and that's the interesting thing. I don't have it. I don't have any of it. Like back then, and this was just like the early 2000s. That was still an early age of people owning things like camcorders, etc. Yeah. Not everybody had one. It wasn't like now where it's like, okay, you could record on your phone. It wasn't like that. No phones had video at that time. You could barely take pictures.
Oh, wow.
So wow. I don't know. If somebody has it, let me know. I don't have it.
Wow. Because for everything that you've touched, when you had the opportunity to look, like I said, looking at it, I only know look this much, but then looking at the accomplishments, it's just like, whoa. When you think you know a person just a little bit, and you be like, whoa.
Wow. I do, not to interrupt you, but I do have some of what I've choreographed, not me dancing, but stuff I've choreographed for the students at the university. So I have that.
You were with the stick? After one of those movies coming on. We will be stronger. You're going to be faster. Yeah.
You know what? I'm not that type of choreographer, because I feel that some people, especially ones that are not familiar with certain types of dance, need to be cultivated. Now, if you play around and you're not coming to rehearsal, then I'll just take you out of the dance, no problem. But other than that, yeah, that's not me. But I would love to play it on TV.
I'm just saying, you're such an authority, and so it would not be hard to imagine you like, let's go, chop, come on, do it again, let's go. What we doing? And then you got into, from dance, you also, in conjunction, you were doing some things in film. Where do you find the joy more so, behind the camera or in front of the camera?
Interesting, because I had always thought, so I come from a theater background, but that's not necessarily on camera, right? So yeah, I'm used to acting. I'm used to also dancing, which is in a theatrical sense, but not necessarily being on camera. So everything that I did initially was behind the scenes, below the line. I was like working on doing everything. So that's shooting, that's DPing, or director of photography, that's assistant director of photography, editing, everything. Of course, when you're an independent filmmaker, you do it all. And so here's the thing, it wasn't until I moved to Florida, and I'm also a voiceover artist, so I had to have headshots done. And when I was, trying to get jobs and stuff, I was like, I need headshots for voiceover? I'm like, they're not even going to see me. They were like, yeah. So I was like, all right. So I found a really great photographer, Bob Lasky, who was down here in South Florida, and we had a session. First of all, I was impressed because I'm scared about makeup and people being able to do Black people's makeup.
Yeah,
and he's not Black.
Yes.
So I was like, are you sure you have somebody that can do Black people's makeup? He said, trust me. I mean, amazing, absolutely amazing to a T. So, and she wasn't black. So that's what you need to do. So that happened. And when I came to get what are they called? The sheets where you can look and see which ones you want to pick.
Your
Contact
negatives.
sheets, I
Well,
think
they
they're
look
called.
back then they called them negatives. Yeah.
Right, but they actually printed out,
Uh-huh.
and it's a whole bunch. I think they're called contact sheets, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. So I came to look at the contact sheets, and he said, you really need to consider being in front of the camera
Mhm.
because you have an amazing presence and take amazing. I said, well, I never thought about that. Okay, I will. So
Oh,
that's what
really?
actually, yeah. So I said, all right, because I wasn't thinking about that. So I actually did that. And I actually started doing some things, some more things acting wise, was in a short film called Crime. Was it? Wait, Hate Crime, which is
Mm.
actually on IMDb. So,
Oh, wow. Wait.
yeah.
Look, are you in some of the earlier episodes?
Of what?
The show that's on there. You said it's on there. Some
Oh,
of the,
no. It was a short film, not a show. It was a short
okay.
film.
I was like, wait, where can we find it?
No.
I was like,
No,
wait a
I never
minute. Wait,
did.
you got some stuff floating around out there?
No. I don't. Besides that and voiceover stuff. So
I mean, hey, at this rate, I'm telling you, when I saw the long list, people, you don't even understand. It would have taken up the full time just to. God bless her. Yes, may He continue to crown her head with more wisdom and knowledge.
oh,
With
thank you.
all of that, Amen. And I mean that from
Thank you.
top of my heart. I want to know because we see you have certain pieces of equipment in studio, so then now you're in the game, you're doing this stuff. If you even had to help somebody right now who wanted to do even a home studio, right?
Mhm,
Because I know
mhm,
you do things in shop as well as in a home studio. How would you
mhm.
help somebody at home? And if they were saying, I want to do that, I don't know even where to start as a CEO because I know that I love this and I don't have a clue. Help them out tonight. Help them out.
Well, you said they don't know where to start. You do. Start where you are. I think sometimes the tension of needing to have the best and greatest of equipment stops people or hinders them from starting at all. And it doesn't have to. These days, I would say at least 95% of people in the US anyway, or in North America, let's say just say the US, have a smartphone of some type, right? So most smartphones, most new smartphones are going to have cameras. Start with your camera phone. Start with a stabilizer, something to hold it up, even if it's a pile of books and you're leaning it against the wall. Start with that. Start with cleaning up your background, making sure that you're facing something, nice, not too busy, but that can work as a background. Start with sound. And here's the thing, if you're not going to pay for anything, pay for sound. So at the very least, go get yourself a pair of earbuds. You could even buy earbuds at the dollar store. They're not going to last you very long, but at least you can start there. And so you've got camera, lighting, sound. That's
Because
what you need to think
you're
about.
here right now. The earbuds. Which pair are you using right now?
Oh, so I'm just listening using the earbud to listen to you.
Okay.
The sound is coming through my microphone. So this is just a monitor. And these are JLab earbuds.
All right, guys. You
So
see that?
these are JLab earbuds. They work relatively well. And I did that because I didn't want to have like a long cord hanging. But the cool thing about all this type of technology, like what you're using, is that you can select the speaker. So I just selected the JLab earbuds, and then you select the microphone, which is this. And I love this mic. This is the Samson Q2U. I talk about this all the time. They talk about this being a great podcasting or great starter mic. I don't think it's a starter mic. I think it's an excellent mic. And you have to go with a mic that works well with your voice. So this works well with my voice. And so I'm listening here, but speaking, and you're hearing the sound coming out of here. That's why it's resonant.
Wonderful. Thank you. I hope you
Yeah.
guys took note of that. See, that's what we're dealing with. So now when I think about, because you do a couple of shows throughout the week, wherever media is, you're everywhere. That needs to be a t-shirt. Yeah. You're everywhere media, you're
Thank you.
everywhere media is. And you really should stop letting the fear stop you from even just trying certain things, some new things, something new that's going to stretch you, because it could lean you into what you're saying. This is the thing that I've needed. This is what I'm bored in what it is that I'm doing. I already do certain things with media, but what else can I do to stretch my own self? Because if we're okay to being life learners, that will help us to last longer. That's just my belief. When you're okay to learning, you're opening yourself up for more growth. When we think about the cons, though, the con, the downside, the hard
Yeah.
side, because we say the heart of it, but then sometimes the hard side. When someone says, "But yes, all of that's great, Shawanna, but I have a family, uh, and I don't know that I can count on that for to take care of myself, let alone myself and a family." Talk a little bit about the hard times when you think about having something like that, or using or being a part of a filmmaker and production and recording as a profession, and saying that that is how you make your living, that's the part of your livelihood. Speak to
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
a little bit about the hardship sometimes when it comes to that, if they haven't even had the opportunity to get all of the degrees and the education and all of the studies that you've had the opportunity to do, right? Help someone right now with that.
So it's not just this field in media or filmmaking, television, whatever. It's difficult whenever you're an entrepreneur, no matter what type of entrepreneur you are. There are hardships and downsides, etc., because you're running your own business. And let me talk about it though. Being in media, in a sense, if you're a filmmaker, if you are an actor, if you are a writer, any type of media that you work with generally, if you're a freelancer, you've already been in the habit of running your own thing and running your own business. So you understand that you're only as good as your last project here. Let's just look at regular commercial Hollywood, right? And we're always talking about, oh, well, this person has this project and this project. Yes, because if they don't keep busy, they don't know what's going to happen after their series ends. If you don't hustle, that's it. You're only as good as your last project. And so if you just rely on that one stream of income, say you have a regular role on a series, and then that series ends, that's it. You don't know that you're going to get picked up for anything else. You may be auditioning for things, but it doesn't mean it's going to come through. So that means you need to learn to do some other things. You need to be interested in directing. You need to have an aspect of fundraising, because if you want to have your own projects done, you need to know how to fundraise, whether it's
Mhm.
raising capital from other people like angel investors or running successful crowdfunding campaigns. You need that end of it.
I
So,
don't think anybody think about that. I know even for me, with what I've had the opportunity to do and to assist others, I know, especially like the whole crowdfunding piece, that is
mhm.
definitely not an area that was on my list, on the to-do list or the to-done list, to even, assist. And so I'm glad that you're speaking to the whole angel investor, the crowdfunding. Yes, go ahead and continue. I had to add that, because
Yeah.
I know that I did not. And you don't even think about that, especially if sometimes we feel like we're alone, but we believe that God has given us this yearning, this burning, and it's some things that we do, and you say, you know what, I'm going to do it. Forget about the naysayers, and I'm moving forward. But it's those things that sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you have to learn to do all that, especially if you're independent and not connected to the industry, or which I call the linear industry. If you're not connected there, say you have an independent project that you're looking to get funded. It's not only are you looking to get it funded, you're looking to get it funded so it can get done, so you can shop it around. So even when it's done, you don't have a guarantee that you have someplace to put it. So you are already working in the mode of, this is mine. and I have to do everything for this, because you're not working for anybody else. When you work for somebody else, those are not decisions that you necessarily have to make. But when you are on your own, whether you're a freelancer and you're doing that as, quote, your business, or you have a full-fledged business, you have to learn how to do all of these things. Otherwise, you won't get any revenue. So that's the hard part, that sometimes it's not a steady revenue all the time, even if you get a contract. So let's bring it to the business world of it. So for example, what you do, what I do, we have clients that we do some of these things for, right? So there's no guarantee that client is going to be with you for 10 years. It would be nice, but you don't know. You don't know that. Yeah. And even with having clients, sometimes you all are not a fit. And you have to fire clients. Please don't be afraid to do that because of money. And that's the thing. You have to be prepared that it may not be a fit. This client may not want to continue. You may not want them to continue. And that's revenue that is lost. So you have to be able to be prepared and deal with that. That's the downside of it. There are no guarantees in this, but there are things that you can do to ensure that you have consistent income that is not tied to serving somebody else in that way, if that makes any sense.
It does. I'm so glad that you brought that out, because it's like I said, it's with the heart, and then sometimes how hard it can be to then say, like I said, if you're a person who has a spouse or, family, even if you're on your own, and it's like, okay, but I still have things that need my attention. And then it's saying, do I love this enough to even do it part-time while I still gear up, stay, with my ear close to things, to still stay in tune and stay on top of, because this is ever changing. How fast does it move for you? Let them know just exactly how fast this moves. When you talk about film, when you talk about that life, that world, how about that?
So let's just look at media as a whole. Things change every 6 months. So this is why when I teach media and students ask, do I have to get the book? I always say, if I'm using a book or need to use a book, I always say yes, because media changes every 6 months. But I prefer to actually teach from current articles and current periodicals, because that keeps up with the change, that reflects the changes. So in media in general, things change every 6 months, which means you have to be prepared to shift every 6 months, in a sense. That doesn't mean you tear down everything you're doing and now I get all new stuff. No, because what you have will probably work for a while. But keep in mind that there are going to be new broadcast standards, new things. When back in the day, when people were shooting in what's called standard definition, and then high def came in like in the early 2000s, most people weren't ready to switch over to high definition. They were still using their same cameras. What happens is the industry started to shift, and it's like, no, if you're going to do this, you have to submit it to us in high definition. So then that's what makes you shift and switch. But I say that you have to be a futurist in these industries. You have to somewhat predict what's going to happen or what's coming. And that means you have to keep up with reading material. I get about 50 or more newsletters every day with what's happening in different ends of the media industry. You need to stay on top of it, because even if that's not one thing that you're doing, teaching it, you still need to know, because there's information in there that's going to be pertinent to something that you need to purchase. And if you're sitting there purchasing old equipment because you didn't know that they're about to release camera X, that's on you. So you've got to keep up with that.
Yeah, no, what you said too, and it makes me think, because you do a weekly, because you're on radio and all over social media.
Yes.
And because of the publications and all of the things that you get, how do you go about even choosing your topics, the things for your shows? Matter of fact, just make sure that everybody even know what the name of that show is, and let us know how you go about picking the subjects, the topics, the guests for your show.
Okay, well, the Phantom show that you're talking about is called Mediascope, and it's all things media, tech, and pop culture. And it's a news show, but not normal news. we like to have a lot of fun. So it's media, tech, and pop culture with a side of fun and foolishness, basically. And what I do is starting that Monday, because I like for the news to be timely and somewhat fresh. Starting that Monday, maybe Sunday night, but definitely Monday, I'll start going through and seeing what speaks to me. Now, there are sometimes you'll see agreement in the different newsletters that I get about different stories. That lets you know this is something important and I probably should talk about it. But I also consider, what does my audience want to hear? Not only what do they need to hear, but what do they want to hear? If it's a story that's going to be too technical and too boring for them, I skip it. What I will do, though, is share it on the right platform, like the media, my MediaScope Facebook page. I'll share it there because I know the people who go there are looking for that type of thing. So the more technical, more in-depth kind of industry stuff, I will leave for that type of posting. But in terms of what we can talk about on MediaScope, definitely looking for stories that grab attention for some reason. And I can't even explain it. For some reason, the story will speak to me. I'm like, yeah, that's it. It's got to be on. So I don't even know how to classify the process I use to bring to select, but I do know that if it's interesting to me, it will be interesting to you all. Go ahead, sorry.
It's like that gut feeling where you know it's the center, it's the energy, it's the synergy when you see it, and because you've been doing it so long, and your viewers, your followers, your fans, right? Because you're everywhere. She's everywhere, right? She's everywhere. So, and like you said, I heard what you said with the different postings to even understand. And that's another thing that we have to be mindful of, is to know where your viewers are, where your listeners are, and to know what they need. Because on one platform, not that you change it up for every platform, but you may need to add and or take away depending on the other platform, because you're on all social medias. You're even on, I know I've definitely seen you even on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
I've seen the show filming over there. Do you do anything special for a place like a LinkedIn?
No, not necessarily, because what happens is anything that is MediaScope or my other series, Be More or Media Meets Brunch. Media Meets Brunch is a little bit separate, but those are being simulcast. So I'm going live to several platforms at the same time. So I'm not changing anything differently or doing anything differently. So for MediaScope, I'm going live everywhere at the same time. For Be More I'm just uploading what I have to the different places. And in fact, Be More sometimes can be a little bit longer. Like these past two, I had interviews, so they were a little bit longer. So I knew I could not upload directly to LinkedIn. So I put the YouTube link there and people can go to YouTube and watch. But that's just, let that be a lesson, LinkedIn. You need to have longer video.
Right. But see, with that though, I know if you were filming, because it's even saying, and to know that you may have to then break it up. Do you know sometimes are based off when you're interviewing and you say, oh, this is juicy. This is going to have to have more than one part. Do you know that? Or you based off the guest? So then you kind of gear yourself up to be able to do that, because it's still the back end and that whole editing piece. How long let's go behind the scenes a little bit. When you do that for a show that you say, hey, it's going to run longer than usual, how long does the editing piece? Because we know that's where it really gets being in front of the camera is one thing. Yes, it definitely takes a personality and it's good for all of the graphics and the things that we get to see. But there's a lot of work that goes on after the camera goes off. So even for someone that could be looking and saying, oh, I can do that, I need you to speak to that person that says, oh, I can do that. But what happens when the camera goes off? Let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, no. And this is an excellent point, that for every 3 minutes you see of edited film or edited video, there were probably a few hours that went into it, unless it is a template of something that is done all the time and you're just sitting there kind of plugging in things and you've made a note of the important parts, because you think about it, you have to go back and rewatch it. I often am not editing as soon as I finish something. So I usually tell them this will probably go up next week or whatever, because I have things in the queue. So I'm not even getting to it till probably the next week, which means I remember everything in general, but there may be some fine points that really need to be in the video and some other things that don't. So you have to sit there basically and watch again what you did so that you can get everything that you need. That alone, depending on how long that is going to take some time. Now, if you have somebody with you that can take notes, timestamp, at this point you said this, at this point you said this, that's helpful, because then you can just zip to those areas and edit that way. But more often than not, you don't have that. I don't have that. So I have to sit and listen again. So we're talking about that, plus actually cutting some things together, layering music if you're using something different, all of that. So you're talking about a few hours of work for just, several, and then, the rendering part of it, you put it all together. Now you have to render it and let it render out and download. So that it's not as simple. And you could tell people who think they know how to do things because their editing and skills are just okay. And it's all right to be a novice, but learn how to do it well. If I do say so myself, I'm a darn good editor. And that's because I've been doing it forever.
You better say you are. Yes, you are.
If I do say so myself.
Yes.
Let me say this. When it comes to paying for these things, I remember there were two people who asked me, because I know they wanted to ask me, or were thinking I was going to say, oh, I will help you. And I sat there with my mouth closed as tight as a ship. Okay. I would just sat there, and they were like, well, do you know anybody who can edit XYZ? The first thing I said is like, do you have a budget? Well, no. So you're expecting somebody to do this for free? Oh, well, it's just a few minutes. That told me right. I said, oh, well, if it's just a few minutes, you can do it. They got quiet because no, you can't do it. Yeah. So it's almost insulting, because what happens is everybody thinks they can do what we do and everybody can't do it. I can't go in and go surgery because that's not what I was trained for. You can't come in and do what I do because that's not what you were trained for. That doesn't mean you can't learn to do this. That doesn't mean if I had a desire to be a surgeon that I could not go back to medical school. I have no desire to, but it doesn't mean that I can't. But I need for people to take these industries seriously, because it is a craft. The things you see on television, the things you see other people doing elsewhere, that's a labor. It's a labor of love, but it takes work to put together. So simply because it looks so easy because you're watching the end result doesn't mean it didn't take work. So before you open your mouth to ask if somebody can do something for 2 cents, think about what actually goes into it, and if you would be willing to do what you do for $100 or something ridiculous. I just had to say that because it brought up that everybody thinks they could do what we do.
It is so needed. And like you said, with the different clients that we get the privilege to serve, who appreciate the craft, and they get it because they know that they want a certain look, and they know that they don't have, and it's okay. They don't want that on their mind, and they need to know that what's being produced is quality. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, that's why I said counting up the cost. Right? Counting up, looking at the pros and the cons, because like you said, people, like you said it already, you have a smartphone, right? You have a decent smartphone, decent lighting, you can get started. You said it at the very top. You said start where you are, but then know that there are other things that will have to be there. They need to be, especially if you're going to continue in the craft along the way. They cost, therefore, you do have to be okay to charge your worth. And oftentimes, folks are a little bit shy and they don't charge their worth, and then they're overworked, underpaid, or no paid, and then we don't have the people that we really know that should be working in these areas, because they don't know the right languaging to be able to then even speak up for themselves. So I appreciate you speaking for the guy, the gal that might be listening that they're saying yes, thank you for saying that, for speaking up, because it is needed. and it's a lot to go on. You see a cup, you see some lights, you see some flickers of something. You say, oh, well, anybody could do that. Okay, right. In due time, and add a couple of years, add some years on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
I would never say that. Yet, to me, it seems like the communication industries are the only industries that people think they can do. Even on the theory end of it, I've had someone say to me, they're looking for, oh yeah, I'm looking for a job teaching. When I was full time in academia, and I said, oh okay, well, what's your area? And it was I don't remember if it was business or whatever, but they said, well, I can teach communication too. No, you can't. I'm like, why are you the only one? Why are we the only ones that people think they can do it? Because you talk all day, you think you know how to communicate and you understand. You don't. So, sometimes I think, we don't get the respect that's due.
well, having advocates for folk like yourself, yeah, and that's what it really does take for more and more people to speak up and talk about it,
Yeah.
right? If we don't talk about it, then it can't be fixed. It can't be
Yes.
addressed to even be a part of bring to the table as a part of the conversation.
Yes.
And that's what it is, having the conversations, having the chats to
Yes.
see, this is what's going on. It's not that it's a secret, but you need to know that it will be fun. You will, because of course my hope, my prayer is that we love what we get to do.
Yes.
So it's like, if you have to lean into it, knowing that I love this, right? That's why it then becomes what, that labor of love. However, comma, we still do need to know that there is a cost and there should be some payment that goes with that,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
The same way
Absolutely.
it has to be some learning with the burning of film. Like, we can't just stop right here. Like you just said, every 6 months, something is changing. We could wake up tomorrow and not know what a CEO is working on, and they've changed something already. You just said, when you said about high definition, we know some things that we see right now on YouTube. I know myself, when I originally got started with videoing, even on Facebook, and I go back to a couple of years ago and looking at some of those videos, and I know that everything was crystal clear. But that tells me that they've done some stuff since then. And it's
Mhm.
like, even staying in the know, we need to know what's going on, right?
Yes.
I understand about not being out and in it, but you still need to have your ear, or know, or be able to tap into someone that knows that area, and and be able to lean in and say, hey, if I don't know, hey, you could be like me. I know Dr. Tachi. Yes, I have a Dr. Tachi. Thank you so much. I'm excited. This has been amazing. This has been a wonderful CEO chat. And
Thank you.
before we let you go,
Yes.
what is it, one thing you would love to leave with the viewers when we think about media and pop and culture, and you're into metaverse, you're into a lot of things as it relates to that because you love it, but how would you help a CEO right now?
Don't let the fact that you don't have the best equipment intimidate you or stop you from starting. But then respect the craft and respect your audience enough to get better at your craft and to get better equipment. So that's what I would say. Also, you've got to become a futurist. You've got to know that other things are coming down the pipeline that can affect buying decisions for the equipment that you're going to get, whether you're shooting video or things for your business or whatever it may be. There are other things that are coming out. So keep those things in mind as you're looking to make purchasing decisions, which means pay attention to what's happening in the industry because it will affect you as a consumer. Don't discount what's happening futuristically. And that's what I would say.
Amazing.
Of
Thank
course,
you
of
so
course.
much for joining us for another
Thank you.
episode of CEO Chat. I'm super excited I had the opportunity to chat with Dr. Tachi. Make sure you are sure to follow her. I'll make sure that you have all of her information because we want you to stay connected, because as you see, she's a futurist and she's all things, what, media, pop culture. She's doing everything. I can't even list it all. I'm telling you, it's so much. It's so much. But we do again appreciate you for being here with us, and we will see you again. Thank you, Dr. Tachi.
Thank you.
Next time on CEO Chat. Bye for now.